most beautiful spots in town, because you're kind of removed from the hustle and bustle, and yet you're
And
kind of
yes,
looking at the hustle and
absolutely,
bustle.
yeah.
And so for me, Chakra always just seems to have been around. I don't know if there was an actual time that you
When
can
we
say,
opened, yeah.
well, even just generally Chakra as a business, where it first began. Did it come out of small beginnings? Was it always a big plan?
No, it was never a big plan. Look, it started off when we were in Georgia Street, and we were looking to sort of, spread our wings a little bit. We'd already opened Torquay and Malahide, and I think we came down here to one of the schools. We did a charitable event, and it was the first sort of international event. And I think there was a Korean person out there, there was Japanese, there was us. I think we were raising some funds for the school, and we came down on a great day out. We had a cricket match on the beach, and then it rained, and we got back and we sold curry, and we went, look, it was fabulous. I mean, the people were so sort of generous, and and we thought nothing of it. And then the gentleman from the Hungry Monk, he was a customer of ours. He used to come to Georgia Street, and then he started coming to Torquay, and he said, look, this ticket to paradise is that wine you open in Greystones. And we looked at it. Look, it just one day I got a call from an estate agent. He said, will you look at Greystones? And at that stage, Greystones was like, you'd want to sort of buy a ticket, get a chauffeur booked and sort of try and. So this was a long haul trip to paradise. And we sort of came out, and we saw a place down where Charles Land is.
Right.
So they said, oh, this is the future, and this is where it's at, and da 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 da. And that was the thing. We went out, we looked at it, and we said, well, this is great, and it's fabulous. And I mean, when you're not a local, you know nothing about nothing.
Sure.
And then I came down here one day. We said, okay, look, let's start scoping the place up and see what's going on. We're sitting out there, and he came up to me and said, why are you opening up the place down there? He said, that's not Greystones.
Right.
I said, this is Greystones. I said, what do you mean? He said, but that's not Greystones. He said, get the thing out there. We spoke to the guys, and then when we went down to actually look at the legals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Ria, would you keep the thing down a bit and tell the kitchen as well? We're interviewing out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sorry, apologies.
That's all right.
Yeah. So that was it. So look, we sort of looked at the thing out there, and then we said, okay, look, for that price, I'd be in the city centre. Why do I need to be in the burbs? And it was a big development, and and look, I mean, everything looks fantastic on paper.
Sure.
And then I think the agents here might have got wind that we were looking for something out there, and they sort of showed us this space, and I came down and I looked at it and I said, God, it's Main Street, and it's but it looked fabulous. It was a very modern looking thing, and it was like, I mean, and they'd sort of let the place out, and if you remember, there used to be a fusion restaurant here.
Right.
So that was the story. I mean, this is, nobody knew about it. It came, it sort of popped up. It lasted as long as it lasted and went. So then I think it was October 2004 we broke ground here, and then I think there was some delays because they were not getting gas connections and stuff like that. So we attempted in March, and I think then August we opened.
And was it a big leap? Because you've always struck me as somebody who pretty much kind of knows what they want and knows how to get it. So I don't know whether there was any kind of fear in you that, will this work? Because it's a big operation. You're opening with new.
We were young and stupid, and there was no fear. Those are the good days, yeah. But you didn't have to think. You didn't.
Right.
But look, I mean, there was potential out there. You could look at any amount of development plans. Nobody had sort of planned for the big exodus of 2008.
Right.
But look, it just was a time where we were looking to expand. We had places out in the UK, and we said, look, this is home base out here. We might as well go out and do whatever we need to do here. And look, I think Greystone ticked all the boxes for us, and then we opened and.
It is a foodie town for a lot of people, so I don't know whether that was something you recognised straight away or whether it's developed over the years.
It took a while. I mean, at that stage, I think that the food scene was quite different at that stage. There were little, there was Monkstown, and there was Torquay, and Greystones had a couple of restaurants, and this is a place where people would drive down to and eat. I mean, it wasn't the cosmopolitan city we live in today that, you're going to have Japanese and Mexican and a taco out there, and, vegan burger here, and a full burger down there, and pizza on the side, and, go out of bhaji on the beach.
Yes.
So we were a long way from where we are, but those were different times. And we came out here, and look, we came here in the first month, and, few people knew about us, and, they would come in, and, it was a very, very slow sort of run into it.
Right.
Very slow, very, very slow. into it. And then I think the Burns used to come into us, and they used to say, oh, they love you out here, it's great. And then we said, okay, all the love. And then we had this restaurant down here. It was a fusion restaurant. It was sort of Oriental fusion.
Right.
And, you know, we talked to the guys, and they said, oh, guys, we smashed it out of the park today, and it was this, and it was that. And we used to open for lunch. Then we said, well, lunch is a sort of poor fallacy that we have. I don't think we can go out and run with this. So what do we do? And, you know, I think everybody just kept reassuring us, look, he said, you've got a great name, the product's fantastic, everybody loves you, but I don't think the love wasn't converting into numbers.
Right.
But I think Greystone at that stage was transitioning as well, and I think we hadn't understood the concept of summer at that stage, and you know that there weren't so many tourists hopping around, and the cliff walk wasn't big, and we didn't come out, and people did come out. It was a destination town,
right?
And the weekends were okay, and then I think slowly but surely everything was fine. I think come October, and things started getting better. November, one fine day I walked in out here, somebody said to me, yeah, I met the manager out here, and he was sort of really flustered, and he said, oh God, they've just closed us down. He said, we're not going to open up this, and like I said, and I guess I can understand, people working out there, and he said, I put my heart and soul into it. They don't understand Greystones, but look, they don't have the patience, and they shut the place, and it's no good, and they're going to go out and open something in town, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
And I think that was difficult, because then we said, well, we've got this whole Christmas, and we always knew that January to March is tough.
Yeah.
Having said that, I think we sort of bootstrapped ourselves, and we said, look, we are here now, and people were good, they were coming back, and it was building up very slowly. So we gave ourselves time. Look, I mean, those days there was no sort of, you can go on Instagram and suddenly have 5,000 followers or 70,000 people walking in out here. It wasn't the instant rush, and even for people to come out and review us,
right,
was quite a trudge, because they'd come out on the Dart or whatever else it is, and they said, oh, the last bastion or whatever. But having said that, we opened to great reviews. There was tremendous support in town, and they were doing, people were coming out. But it was a very slow build up, and then I think came the summer of 2006. And, one fine day we thought that, well, something had changed.
Right.
And
what do you think that is? Is it just like it takes a while for people to figure out, their new kind of places to go, new
places, new
traditions?
families. I mean, this is what I said. The transition of Greystones, like it's been them and new people coming up. They're setting up houses. The old ones, and look, we were talking about the boom years.
Yeah.
There were people flying off left, right, and centre. People were very distracted. But having said that, I mean, the tremendous moat in town that people did come out as much as they could. They brought people out. And they loved the spot. They loved the venue. They liked the place. And they said, and then slowly but surely, look, we did, reasonably well. And look, there wasn't a single award this restaurant has won, whether it was at a national level or whatever else it is. Then we brought in a team. The nation's been around. We set stuff, and this place allowed us to do whatever we wanted to do. It wasn't restrictive. People were progressive.
Right.
You could do, and you could tweak the menus. You could do new stuff, and people were sort of, and curious, and and supportive. And that was where it was. And then look, after that, Greystones became an integral part. People, bought homes here. They've made lives out here. And look, out of this restaurant, my group, there are about 30 odd businesses that have come out for people who've been my colleagues. They've gone out and conquered, become competition. Some have been good, some have been, indifferent, some have been glorious. But look, it's sort of set up, and this was home for a lot of people. This is where they bought their starter home and moved on. They set up their businesses from here. Look, it's a place that's given us so much. It's a town that's given us so much.
For you guys, was there maybe it was 2006 that you sort of felt, well, this is home now for us too, because we actually do sort of have the kind of the following would say that guarantees you a good business. I don't know whether there was a point where you just felt settled in yourself that okay, it worked. We're doing good here. Because you said it was a struggle a little bit at the beginning, but
look, every time. Look, I mean, I for us it's always been a slow burn. We've never been on the rocket index, so we've never sort of gone out and sort of we might have lit the place on fire with our reviews and people raving about it and all that stuff. But a business is a business. I mean, it's not today's world. I mean, it took time, and look, we were slightly detached from Dublin. We had to sort of always rely on the locals. And then I think this whole summer business started changing. There lots of people started coming out here. The Dart was a little more accessible. Lots of people came out, and we got the weekend trippers, and other businesses came up. And look, I mean, the main street started getting busier and busier and busier, and it did very well from here. We went down to open Dundrum from here, and the team moved from here, but they had their homes out here. They did, and look, we haven't looked back, and we're still here. And look, I know, before the pandemic, we were here actually before the pandemic in 2020. We were actually here for 15 years without anybody knowing, and people still in Greystone said, "Oh God, yeah, Chakra, yeah, everybody raves about it. I haven't still gone," which is actually a great indexation, which means that you haven't sort of
exhausted
your resources in terms of it. Yeah, like the downside of it at times is say, "Oh well, if you don't, not everybody knows about it." And look, people are people. Like we're not on the main street, and look, I mean, it's a very busy main street. It's become a town. It's become a foodie destination, and look, if you can contribute to that, so be it. And now it's a hub, and every good restaurant, takes a little from you, but then adds so much more to you as well. So look, if there are more restaurants out here, and they're quality restaurants, and they draw in people, their overflow can come to us, and people are always curious and they go out and try it. So look, that's where we're at.
You mentioned the fact that great reviews almost from the get-go, but certainly the awards have sort of built, and it almost must feel at times like you're Daniel Day-Lewis or Helen Mirren, that every year comes around, the Oscars are kind to you. I don't know if that's a pressure, whether it's just a pure joy.
It's joy for the team. I mean, look, it's a very tough business. Look, you are judged every day, every evening. You can go down, you can serve, you can have 100 happy customers and 2 very unhappy ones, and they make their feelings known. So look, you can imagine being judged every single day. So, and then the reward is that you tend to forget. People tend to focus not on the negatives, but you've got to go out and say, how do we make it better? How do we learn from that situation? So there is always that thing that hangs over your head to sort of go out and look, we seek to be perfect, but nobody is. People are, we deal with humans at a human level. Everybody's approach is different. Everybody's point of view is different to how a restaurant should be. Everybody goes out to one, so everybody's an expert on it. And they're varied opinions, so they're good, bad, and different. And so you've got to go out and sort of churn all of that. And then when you get something, we get rewarded. The team feels sort of elated that, look, we've been through, the good times. But I think it's just, people can be quite unkind at times to restaurants.
But having said that, now just the reputation that Chakra has is huge. There's obviously the awards and the reviews, but just the word of mouth is so strong. There is that feeling that, it's one of the finest, certainly in Greystones, but I think in Wicklow and beyond. So that must feel pretty good at times.
It does. I mean, absolutely. Look, I think, it's look, if you told somebody, walked into this restaurant, you told that this was, it's going to be a 19 or an adult business, when he said just, his business could be just done adulthood and start drinking together. And people find it. And look, we've renovated it. The pandemic was difficult for everybody. We saw an opportunity. We used to have a table tennis table in here. Like we hadn't done that kind of business ever, but look, it was great. And it was through the support of the town that when we came down, opened the kitchens up, emptied the fridges out, met somebody out there, and we said that we were going to go out and do the meals, and then we went out to hospitals and did whatever we did into the local communities, and that turned whatever little business we got. Look, I could keep my team. I think the business is all about, it's never about an individual, and I think today most restaurants make it about an individual. For us, it's about the people, the legacy that they have. Every individual who works out there contributes to our reputation, their own reputation, the restaurant's reputation.
Right.
And I think the massive shift that you see today is it's about one individual or 2 stars. They run everything. I mean, I'm the man who could push the cart from the back, and I've always been that. The glory is to the people who run the place.
Right.
I've plenty to bask in, but look, they have to take the the shine of the business, because they are the business. And I think in modern day restaurant people have forgotten that it's about suddenly become about themselves, the owners or the chefs.
I think social media has done that. They need to focus on a person rather than the food. I mean, the actual fact that the food on the
a
plate
team
is the thing.
It takes 35 people to run a good team, and they're students, they're mothers, their children, their sisters, their brothers, they're human beings who work out here. And like if everybody came in with a little bit of empathy, people are very caring out here. Look, we're fortunate to be here where we are, and we have the support of the people, but sometimes you have to break it down to a human level and say, well, look, everybody's sort of putting the shoulder together to keep it going and to have a good service. You can train and train and train, you can plan for everything, but there are always exigencies in any business. And look, this is a business that has an exigency on a daily basis. So look,
But that alertness you have to detail and caring about, how the team are working and what is going on every single day in the restaurant. I'm hoping that you also get those moments where you can just have a little bit of kind of, bask in the fact that you've built something huge over the years.
Fabulous. I'm immensely proud of what I've done and what we've done collectively. Look, I can only do so much, and you know what, we've come together, and look, from here we've gone on to other countries at restaurant in the UK, and we came back here, and we cover the city from the north to the south to right down to Greystones. Look, and to have that and to have them run for so many years. Look, the oldest restaurant is going to be now 23 years old. So look, So I mean, it's a tremendous thing. I mean, I'm immensely proud of what we've managed to achieve out here, and and what people have given us to do. Look, I mean, this is such a sort of fickle business. The only thing that people know about it, restaurants open, restaurants close, but to keep them open for a long period of time, takes a lot of, hard work, but also takes equally the support of the people around you. And, if you have a product, people, these days the mantra is that build it and they'll come. I haven't built the Colosseum, so it's not, they can come down and scrape their names on the walls out here, no problem with that. But look, it just doesn't matter. And look, I mean, we've had competition, a new restaurant opens up and everybody drives out, and look, it's a small pot of people who spend the money, and money's cyclical. Sometimes they're plenty, they spend a lot, and when sometimes they don't have, they still spend, which you have to be thankful for. Look, we've had rough years and bad years and good years, and yet the business has stood still, and proudly to say that, look, we've never sort of, and look, I think the perception is it's such a special place. You can come down and dine in every day out here. I wouldn't recommend it, but that's all right. But happily so, they can come down. We can. But look,
I suppose the last two questions will be, the first one is, is there was it a sit down that Chakra began through a conversation and someone said, let's do this? Was it I don't know how Chakra first came into being. Was that a very small affair? Was it always ambitious?
Don't know. I think our ambitions were different, because we never thought that we would build such a big restaurant.
Right.
But when we looked at the space, and when we set out to build this place, and we still, every time we change the carpets, I see my yellow lines that I'd marked down onto that, and see where the pipes are or whatever else it is. But I think the initial thing was it was way too big, so we said, okay, look, will I do something, not build that big a restaurant?
Right.
But when we looked at the plans, it looked good. We didn't know what else we could do with the space. We could have had an empty space out there. Is a restaurant too big? Yeah, it's too big on the quieter days, and it's too small on the busy days. But look,
But that very, very first Chakra, that very first kind of the beginnings of this adventure, was that a major plan? Was that It was.
Look, it's the only restaurant. Look, Nigel, who's designed most of my restaurants here and everywhere else, we set out to India. So Nigel and I went down to India, and we handpicked everything, every pillar, and everything that hangs on the wall, the handles on the door, and the tables and the chairs. And look, we've been around. We were there for I was there for 3.5 months. He was there for 4.5 weeks. We went around, and every little thing, whether it's the detailing on that thing, where we know where it's come from, it's quite an emotional exercise.
Right.
It's almost like having your child. And it's just you remember every detail, and remember the ceiling and the lights and what you could do, and
that's ambitious for someone starting out to really go to that extent of thinking, I'm going to make sure every little detail of this is right, because most people starting out are a little bit worried about the money they're spending and about how much work they're going to put in if they don't know if it's going to work. But obviously from the start you didn't want to do anything by half. It had to be
not by halves, because it's always I've been. One thing we know, that we're passionate about whatever we do, and if you put your heart and soul in it, and how hard it is. And sometimes it doesn't work out, but look, you've got to go out, and if you sort of cut corners at inception, it almost sort of becomes a habit. And look, sometimes small is beautiful, and people don't need any capital to set up a business today. But look, this is how we've done it. We had the backup that we had a couple of restaurants behind us at that stage.
Right.
Would have made it easier, but look, I don't think that we ever took that lightly, just because you had 3 other restaurants that were sort of behind you, the 4th restaurant. But this was, I think, is the grandest restaurant I ever built. All the restaurants that I've ever done, and to be, look, I've been involved in everything, and even that's what drives me, and I thrive in that, and everybody else thrives in it. So, but look, I think it's by far the finest restaurant I've ever built anywhere on the planet. And I think there's a lot to be said for that.
I suppose the final question, you mentioned the fact that some of the team here will go and they'll help get Dundrum set up and they'll sort of go to other branches. Is it difficult for them when they move to another place and realise that not everybody's beautiful as Greystonians or as smart and intelligent and witty? Because Greystones is exceptional.
Good, it is exceptional. Look, I know. Look, they all come back because look, they all want to live here as well.
Yeah, right.
So look, there's a natural draw because this is home. They always come back. They'd say, okay, we go out for a month or 2 months or whatever else it is, and they all come back here because this is home for them. And some people look, Dinesh has been here since 2002, and so has Robert and everybody else, and people who don't even work with me. I mean, there are about 11 or 13 families who worked with us who live in Greystones now. So there must be proof is in the pudding, and they live here, and they've got businesses all over the city or whatever else, and then they commute from here. So there is a draw, and we know it is a special place. I mean, there are no two ways about it. Yeah, look.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
We are very, very special.